Greetings to my fellow surgeons and dear colleagues. This is Dr. Simanchal Goel, and today we'll be touching a very important topic about how to create a perfect CCC. This video is going to demonstrate you the creation of a perfect CCC in 10 pictographs that I have drawn by myself. They are not going to be found in any of the textbooks. They are out of my own experience. Slide number 3 is very important, and I'm going to end this video with two very interesting cases that will be under slow-mo for you to learn the creation of CCC. My average CCC time is around 10 seconds. So you're going to learn a lot of new things in this video. We'll start this video with point number 1 that is very important for you. That is, identify the kind of IUL to be implanted. I want you to identify two things as soon as the patient lies down in front of you and you have a side port in your right hand and a limbs in your left hand. That is, identify the kind of IUL to be implanted and the grade of cataract. Only two things. The key to a good CCC is identify the kind of IUL to be implanted and the grade of cataract that you are going to operate, because only these two things will demonstrate how you're going to make the CCC size. Point number 2, that is, identify the grade of cataract. Only two things I need you to judge whenever you start your next case is to identify the kind of cataract, the grade of cataract, and the kind of IUL you're going to implant the patient. Once you start the case, you have a fair idea of both of these things, the IUL and the grade of cataract. Once you have judged the case, so this slide is very important for you to keep it with in your OT, in your mind. I guess you should learn all these sizes for you to be a versatile surgeon. So 90% of the cases are routine, and I want you, it has helped me a lot, to make a 5 millimeters of rexes in all the routine cases. Toric IULs will go ahead with 4.5 millimeters of rexes. Multifocals, because we don't want them to just move around in the bag, I always prefer a smaller rexes, that is 4.5. Diabetic patients, because they are good candidates to go for PRP later on in their lives, I tend to make a bigger rexes. And diabetic cataracts are infamous because they don't chop, so you can just prolapse and pull them and just go ahead with the phaco. Grade 4 and grade 5 should be 6 mm and HMSC should be 4 mm. So grade 4 and grade 5 cataracts are very hard, and you need to make a larger rexes in them because of the obvious reason, because the chops are going to be more traumatic to the bag. It would be in best interest to make a 6 mm CCC in those harder cataracts, and I prefer smaller rexes in HMSC because intumescent cataracts threaten to rip apart and make that Argentina flag sign. I always prefer for a 4 mm rexes in HMSC. So we'll be starting the CCC. This slide is very important because the cross shows where you are going to start your CCC. A fair marker and a fair starting point would be where the Purkinje images of your microscope light are. Always try, if the patient has good centration, always try to start your CCC where the Purkinje images lie. For good reference, we'll be starting the case where the cross mark is. So we'll come to a very important and crucial step. In my early days, I used to commit a lot of mistakes starting the rexes. Starting the rexes is very important. If you are not starting the rexes at the right point, you're going to get ahead with an ill-centered rexes. So the red cross is the way to go, and the yellow crosses are the thing not to do. Point number 5, raising the flap. Once you have started the rexes, go upwards. This is my way to do the rexes. You can always change the ways that surgeons do in their surgical videos, but for me, what works is I go up and I try to fold the flap. This is raising the flap, and the point number 6 is folding the flap. You just go ahead with your cystitome and try to fold the flap over it just like this. Later on in this video I'm going to show you a real case, so don't worry, just try to remember the pictographs. I'll just raise the flap and fold the flap. The progression of CCC, point number 7, is very important. The asterisk sign that you see is where you hold the flap with your cystitome. That should precisely be 1 or 2 mm away from the margin being torn. So always keep your eye on the margin being torn and stay 1 to 2 mm behind the rhexis. Point number 8, go on anti-clockwise, stay 1 to 2 mm behind. You just progress with these pivotal circular motions of your right hand. You grab hold of the conjunctiva in your left hand and just try to practice this circular fine movements, and in no time you're going to master it. After a couple of cases, yes, the subincisional area was always a little tricky for me in my early days, but nevertheless a lot of practice can make wonders for you. So you just try to make it as circular as possible, and better watch out in your subincisional area because it's a little tricky, just like doing subincisional IA is tricky. And yes, you complete the rhexis 360 degrees. The asterisk precisely shows the direction of your cystitome all across the video. You can just rewind the video, and yes, you can even see a virtual flap that I have made downwards and to the left. Yes, it will be the rhexis that is going to separate out after you put visco. So that's all for the pictographs. They were brief, they were crisp, but I guess you can just go ahead with the video once again, and yes, I'll try to show you some real cases. So golden tips I would like to just make you emphasize is that always stay 1 to 2 mm behind the rhexis margin on the flap. This is golden tip number 1. Even if you forget the 10 tips, always remember this tip: 1 to 2 mm behind the rhexis margin. And golden tip number 2, always keep an eye on the rhexis edge being torn rather than at the point you're holding the flap. Very important tip. I think it would be difficult for you to imagine, but I'll lay emphasis on these 2 points later in the video. Always keep an eye on the rhexis margin being torn rather than on the point that you're holding the flap. You don't see the cystitome, you don't see the point where it is putting pressure on the rhexis, but on the margin being torn. Just like a famous book says it, just like you see the road and not the steering wheel while driving. I read Sibyl's phacoemulsification in my residency days, and these precisely are the lines that are written in that book. I would prefer you to give it a read. So let's go ahead with the fun and interesting case. I'll show you a real case. Yes, we have started the rhexis from the center. I have raised the flap, I am progressing the flap. Yes, I am staying 2 mm behind the margin being torn, and yes, subincisional area is a little tricky, but nevertheless I can complete it. Yes, let's go. That's how it's done, and boom, in under 10 seconds the rhexis is over. So okay, let's slow it down for you guys to watch out those small meticulous hand movements that need to be learned. Yes, Purkinje images are slightly on the left side, but notice how I am aiming for the center of the bag and not the Purkinje images in this case, because the eye is tilted on the right side a bit. So yes, I have raised the flap, I folded the flap right now, and I am just staying 2 mm behind the rhexis margin being torn. And notice one point, very important point: I am always keeping the flap flat on the bag. Try to keep the flap as flat as possible. And yes, I am going in a circular fashion. My eyes are always on the edge being torn, not on the cystitome, not anywhere else. Once you have this very important habit of closely observing the margin being torn, it would be a cheese walk, it would be a cake walk for you. Let's go ahead. Yes, I hope you enjoyed my first case. It just went at a lightning speed. And that's another case. So we are going to implant a trifocal lens in this patient. So go ahead to the third slide of this video, which says 4.5 mm is the best rexis size for a trifocal lens, so that it does not dislocate 20 years from now. So this patient is young. We'll start from the Purkinje image. We'll go up, we'll raise the flap, we'll fold the flap, we'll progress the flap, and just like that, I'm once again staying 2 mm behind the rexis margin being torn, and here you go. Boom. Isn't it fun? So it's a PSC, and we are going to start the case from the center. We'll poke a hole, we'll go up. So after some cases, you're going to remember what 4.5 mm looks like. I'm not in the habit of using Utratra's forceps to measure what 5 mm or 4.5 mm looks like. But yes, in your early days, you can surely go ahead and use it. And I'm just progressing the flap 360 degrees, staying 2 mm behind the rexis margin. Keep an eye on the rexis margin. I am trying to emphasize this point. Keep an eye on the rexis margin, and things will be very easy for you. I hope you like my videos, and we are going ahead with placing a trifocal lens in this patient. I have fast forwarded it for you, and just like that, as you can see how nicely the rexis margin covers up the whole of the optical edge, getting this patient a very good IUL stability in the chamber, and a very good long-term result to this young patient. The patient is 35 years old, for your kind information. He had a steroid-induced PSC. So that's all from my side. We are just taking out the visco from underneath the IUL. I hope you like my stuff. I have a lot of viewers, but I guess a lot of you have not subscribed to my channel. It helps me a lot if any of you would be willing to support my channel by subscribing it. And I'll be posting some more fun cataract tutorials for you in coming days. I just operated some weird and some difficult cases as well in the past few days, and I'll be uploading all of them for you. If you have any of the demands or requests to make, kindly just type them down in the comments, and I'll try to give some tutorials on them as well. I hope you like my videos. Kindly like, share and subscribe. All the best with your career and your surgical days. And that's all from my side. Dr. Simanchal Goyal signing off. Thank you and have a nice day.